A patient once told me that the only time my brain is quiet is when my hands are busy. Does that sound like you? If that is you, if writing or painting or knitting or playing music is the only thing that actually settles you, I want you to know that that's not a coincidence, okay? It's not a distraction. It's real, and there's real science underneath it. So today I want to look at what the science says about why this actually works well for ADHD and autistic brains and how to protect it from becoming another item on the to-do list. Okay? Is it regulation or distraction? All right? You tell me. Okay? You tell me. Let's take the skeptical question seriously. Okay? Because I know some of you ask it. Am I actually processing anything or just avoiding? The honest answer is creative practice can be either, and it often is actually both, and both of them can be legitimate. Distraction that lowers your physiological arousal is not a moral failure, it's actually a tool. But there's evidence that expressive work does more than distract. So, what the expressive writing research actually says is that a best studied version of this is expressive writing. Okay. The research tradition was started by a psychologist, James Penn Baker, in the 1980s, where people write about emotionally significant experiences for something like 15 to 20 minutes over several sessions. Okay. This was actually a course of action that he did. You're going to write down this specific experience for 15 to 20 minutes. Okay. And there's, plenty of research on this in the Journal of Abnormal Psychology and all of those types of things. But what did they find from expressive writing? The overall benefits that are real, present the effect of honesty, measurable, modest, across all of the studies, right? Expressive writing has shown to be associated with improvements in well-being. It can help people decrease from that sympathetic overdrive. Okay. And remember, with all of these things, not every neurodivergent brain is the same, right? Not everybody is going to want to do expressive writing. I do not personally like to do expressive writing. I have plenty of friends who think that expressive writing is amazing. They journal, that is what helps them get through. Remember, we talk about things, but that doesn't mean that they are for everybody. Okay. But what's really cool about expressive writing, and if it does work for you, is it's cheap. Okay, and it's accessible anywhere you go. You can pick up a pen and piece of paper and start writing. You can bring a notebook or a journal with you if you want to. Okay, so writing seems to help tune, diffuse emotional experiences into language and into a narrative. And for some people, that's really helpful, right? It can give them and shape that for them, right? So for women that spent decades being told they're too much, too sensitive, making meaning on the page is not a small thing. Okay, it's not a small thing. It can be a pretty powerful thing. So I don't know how many of you out there like expressive writing. Leave it in the comments so we know. How many of you out there don't like expressive writing, right? How many of you it doesn't work for? And that's the point of this, right? The point is that everything doesn't have to work for us, but what are some of the things that potentially could work for us? Okay, what are the things that maybe we could try that could be helpful? And what are the things that aren't? Okay. Now let's look at why creativity works for neurodivergent brains when stillness doesn't always. So, we talked about in the series before about stillness being a wellness trend that doesn't work for a lot of neurodivergent brains. It doesn't work for me. When I have to be still, my brain fires more, right? It's constantly firing. Okay. Now, the mechanism in question is why does something regulate you when sitting still doesn't, when you're making or creating something because you're still sitting still? Okay. And it's engagement without demand. So creative work, so this could be art, pottery, right? Glass art, I really like doing and creating things. But you're engaged without a demand. So creative work occupies the attention system with something intrinsically interesting, which is exactly what an interest-driven neurodivergent brain needs, right? While making no social demands. No eye contact, no masking, no performance. I'm just here making my glass art. Second is rhythm and repetition. Knitting, brushstrokes, kneading dough, strumming rhythmically, repetitive, building that artwork, that glass art, right? Those things, that predictable and repetitive movement tends to be organizing and soothing for many nervous systems. You heard what I said, many, not all. Autistic women often already know this because it's a big part of why stimming exists, right? That's a big part of why stimming exists. Third is that completion and visible, you can complete something and you can see a visible output. So our neurodivergent brains are chronically starved for finished things. A page, a scarf, a song fragment is proof of our effort, and our brain can actually see that. Hey, Dr. Sarah, good job. You completed this task. And that feeds back the motivation, and in a way, abstract self-improvement never will, right? And then fourth is flow. Deep absorption in creative work is one of the few socially celebrated forms of hyperfocus, right? It is a state where the self-monitoring channel, the one that's been criticized, all the time, finally goes quiet. Okay. So creativity, identity, and late diagnosis, right? One more layer we got to add on, especially for women diagnosed in midlife. And remember, there's a lot of us out there that we didn't have these diagnoses till we're 40, 50, some people 60, some women 70. Okay. And so when we spend 40, 50, 60, 70 years building an identity around who you're supposed to be, creative practice is often where the real you kept living. The notebooks, the abandoned crafts, the songs, those weren't failed hobbies. They were our nervous system's maintenance program, right? They were really keeping us upright. They were running quietly in the background, right? Without your permission or credit. We didn't realize what we were doing, right? But now I want us to reclaim those on purpose. Post-diagnosis is identity work and regulatory work at the same time, right? So how do we do this? How do we do this without making this another thing we should do, right? Because that's exactly what we don't want. 3 rules to keep this from becoming another failed streak of something. Rule 1 is that there is no quality standard. Okay? Regulation writing is not writing well. Ugly journaling, fragments, lists, one furious page that you never reread, all totally valid, right? If perfectionism shows up, make it worse on purpose, right? Write sloppier, right? Draw a big picture in the middle of your writing. Rule 2, no schedule requirement. This is a tool, not a habit contract. So some weeks do this daily. Some weeks don't do it at all if you don't feel like it. Frequency tracking never streaks. Okay? Same principle as the last video we talked about this. Rule 3, match it to your state. Are you activated? Are you anxious? Something rhythmic and physical, right? Knit, collage, walk and voice memo. Shut down? Are you feeling shut down, maybe numb? Something with color, with texture, or music to gently bring that sensation back. The medium should meet the nervous system where it's at. This is awesome. Do what you feel works for you in the moment. Okay? So 3 things to try this week. I know I usually only tell you 1, but let's do 3. 1, the 10-minute unload. Timer on, write everything that's in your head. Throw it away if you want to after. You never have to look at it again, right? The throwing away is allowed, and sometimes it's actually the best part. Sometimes it's my favorite part. I look at that list. Sometimes I rip it up and then throw it away. Number 2 is a hands-busy practice for TV time. So knitting, stretching, beading, whatever it is, and notice whether your evening anxiety changes. Just take note. 3, reopen one abandoned creative thing from your past with 0 goal attached. Just revisit it. Maybe you were building a painting. Maybe you were crocheting something. Maybe you were painting something, right? If a creative practice has been quietly holding you together for years, and I would argue one probably has, I'd love to hear what your version is. Tell us in the comments, genuinely, because guess what? We need to hear what works for other people. Remember, it doesn't have to work for us, but there's value in knowing what you do that does work for you, because maybe it's something that we can try. Next in this series, we're going to talk about why self-care advice itself becomes a course of pressure, and how to build flexible self-care instead. Don't forget to subscribe. Go on over to the Substack, right? Your notebooks were never a waste of time. I'm going to see you in the next video.